there's a channel that we need to create just a little bit. It doesn't have to go all the way to the top, but we need to create a channel probably a couple inches back for the front sight. On this one, I forgot that step, but this is where the front sight was, and you can blatantly see that. So the front sight is going to rub in this holster every time I put it in there, which I don't care, it's going to be my holster. So, but to prevent that, I have a piece of aluminum bar stock, and it's, I don't know, maybe 1/4 inch. I can look. 3/16. Some 3/16 aluminum. And this was actually an old cleaning rod, so reuse, people. And I need to put that right on top here where the front sight is, so it'll go on just like that. And I'm just going to hold it on there with some blue tape, because the blue tape won't damage the gun and it comes off easy. So I'll put a piece right towards the front and just kind of hold it in place. Fit that tape around there. And the tape isn't thick enough to cause any forming issues, so let's put another piece around towards the back. And just carefully hold it in place. Taper down. Now, you don't always have to have the firearm to do a holster. There's blue guns are available for a lot of different guns. So I'm just going to take the holster, drop it in my bucket. Give that a minute or two to soak. And I'm going to take my gun and put it in a 1 gallon Ziploc bag. And that's what I usually use. I'll just fold off the corner like that. And you only need a minute or two in there. Give it another couple seconds. And we just take the gun and push her in until you get it to where you want it. And you can see how it's pushed out around the trigger guard here. So we'll just kind of manipulate the leather a little bit here. Now I do want, let's move my camera down just a little. I do want to form right around the trigger guard a little bit better. So I'm just going to keep pressing it down. Some people like to get a lot of forming, get some grooves in there and stuff, and really they don't do anything to help retention on the gun. Around the trigger guard and a bit around the ejection port. It's really all that's needed. And I don't always do around the ejection port. Try to get some around the trigger guard. There we go. I think that's all I'm going to give it. So we just kind of pressed everything down around the trigger guard. I may take a clamp and put on there to form it a little bit better. But when you do stuff like that, you have to be extra careful. And yeah, I don't think I'm going to. I like the way it's coming out right now. But when you do, you want to put a good heavy piece of leather under it so that the clamp doesn't leave a mark. As long as you want to keep squeezing. When you're working around the trigger guard, make sure you're holding the gun in. because it may decide to work its way up. Make sure your fingernails are clipped, because your fingernails will leave marks in the leather too. So there we go. I think that is right where I want it. I'm going to set it aside. I'll check on it tomorrow. But other than that, I won't touch it for 2 days. So I'll be back in my time, a couple of days. In your time, I don't know, a couple minutes. Alrighty guys, we're back for the unveiling. Here we go. I think it needs maybe a little more time to dry. Now, you can see how it's stressing this corner. I should move it forward just a little, there's enough room to go. Probably almost 1/4 of an inch yet forward. So I'm going to do that. I'll reflect that on my pattern, because I did mark the position of it on here. So I will reflect that and move it that way another 1/4 of an inch. As for fit, now I've had it in this bag to protect the gun, keep it from getting rusty and such. So the holster itself is going to be a little oversized. Now, just to show you, once it relaxes, the fit is nice. It's very, very nice. So I'm sure this is going to be oversized right now, and the gun will just fall in and fall back out. But, like I said, this one has relaxed and it won't drop the gun. So that's what we need to do, is let it relax now. And I do that before I put the finish on it. So I will go ahead and finish my burnishing. And my view from here, I'm looking at the viewfinder of my camera in a mirror reflected back at me. So please forgive me, but I'm sure you can tell that it needs to be refined now after soaking it and molding and forming and all that. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going to bore you with all of it. I've bored you with enough stuff. I'm going to take some 220 and sand all my edges again and burnish them one more time. And then tomorrow, after I let this relax a bit, it'll be ready to put some finish on it. So I see that here I was rubbing it a little bit when I was forming it, and this die doesn't take that kind of structure very well, so I may have to put a little more dye and like give it another coat of dye, which will even it out a little bit more. I do like the inconsistencies with this dye. So I don't know how much of that I'm going to do, but I'll do a little. And then I'll be back tomorrow before we put the clear on it, so you can see how I do the clear. Alrighty, be back tomorrow. Hey, well, quite nicely burnished. Still kinda, if you try, you can make out the seam a little bit, but it's all pretty nice. So now we're going to put a top coat on it, and I'm going to use Fiebing's acrylic Resilene. There's other things that you can use. Some Tandy's got some super sheen, satin sheen. I happen to like this. Works well for me. And when I work it in, I just first kind of wipe it on a little, and not much more than that. You gotta try to get up under some of these corners a little bit. Some people use a dauber to apply this. Personally, I prefer this. And this is just an old piece of sweatpants. And it takes more than one coat. So don't be thinking that it's done now. I like to apply 2 to 3 coats, and I'll grab a new rag because some of the dye came off into this rag, and I don't want that affecting my finish. So for my second coat, I'm going to go ahead and grab a new rag. But I'll have to let this sit for a little bit here. So I think I'm going to probably, to give you an idea, this one has 2 coats on it, and it's a little dusty. And this was a different type of project, and this has 3 on it, and it's also a bit dusty. But there we go. So kind of give you an idea what it's going to look like. Right now it's going to stay pretty much like it is now. The second coat will give it a little more shine, and every subsequent coat will give it a little bit more shine until it gets to a point where it won't shine anymore. So I'm going to do two more coats on it, and I'll be back. I do have to let it dry for about half an hour between coats. So, and I don't know what the directions say because they put that print so tiny. Alrighty, we'll be back. Well, here you go. The finished product. I think it came out pretty nice. I could move this forward a little bit, which I will in the next one. But there you go. I think it came out great. So, next project is I'm going to use my forms, and I'm going to make a case for my Leatherman, my original Leatherman PST. And stay tuned. So y'all stay safe. God bless. Thank you so much for hanging out through this entire project. Appreciate you watching. With that being said, we'll catch you in the next one.